I am grateful to you and to her, first of all, to bring me here. Because my purpose in doing this for, I would say, 20 years, speaking to younger group, older group, mainly students, they are our future. Students in high school, students in colleges. I never said no. I never took any for any speech of mine. Money, I don't believe in that. But I believe that you will promise to me that you will tell my story to your children and they will tell to their grandchildren. Because my motto is never forget and never let happen again the worst genocide of humankind, where 6 million people died only because they had different religion, or there were some of them in Auschwitz. There were in a different political misunderstanding with Hitler, or they were Christians and gays. Anything that could happen again if you are not vigilant and not aware of what's going around you. And our duty, the survivor's duty, not everybody can do it, but those who are survived, they have to speak about it. I haven't spoken about it for a long, long time. When I went back from German concentration camp in 1945, April, the war was not over yet. In May was over. I could not speak. I could not tell where I was, what I did. First of all, because my friends, Christian friends, there were no Jews in that town where I came back, but my Christian friends did not want me to spare me. That they didn't know where I was. Everything was in secret. Secret was the best arm of the Nazis. We didn't know what happens from 1 hour to another. So they didn't know where I was. They just thought I will come back. And before I tell all the story, I tell one of my best friend who was a Protestant priest's daughter. Next day when I arrived to an empty house, only my piano was there, too heavy to be looted, 2 beds or 3 beds, an empty house. She came over, her name was Ildiko, she came over with a velvet dress on her arm. Hi, Clara, wherever you were, I was thinking of you. I saved your sweet 16 navy blue velvet dress with a little lace collar. She pulled off the truck that emptied my house. She pulled off and took it in her closet. They wouldn't kill her, but they could punish her because they were not supposed to talk to us. She pulled down, put in her closet, and next day she came with my velvet dress. It's tragic comic, but that was something back to life. We didn't have panties, we didn't have stockings, and now I had a velvet dress, lace collar. Now this was my Christian friend. And from now on I will tell you other stories that will prove another idea of mine. Coexistence is possible between Jews, non-Jews, Christians, Muslims, you name it. It's possible if we not only tolerate the differences, because there are differences, we respect, we learn from the good from their side, and they learn from us. It is possible. I will prove this shortly, easily, for Nazis who helped me to survive, Christians when I came home, my friends who helped me to go back to school. I never believed that I will go back to school ever. And this will show that there are not 2 flowers alike. But if we respect those who are good, there is no problem. It's possible. So,
going to have you pause for just a second, because I don't think, are you hearing her in the back, Maria? Can you hear? Or is it?
It's not on the speaker.
I was born in Transylvania. I want to smile. Why do you smile?
Because I've always found the word Transylvania to be kind of interesting and tied in with Dracula and the whole.
I am his.
I just smiled.
I am his niece. I'm his niece. When I look at, that's what I tell my students, and then they smile because the story is not so pretty, but at least it's a very nice county. It's like New Jersey or a big county, rivers, mountains, beautiful, minerals, and we really didn't have any problem. I was born in Romania, but Transylvania changed a couple of other countries, Austro-Hungary, Romania, only Hungary. So we had a history that we taught and we learned, but we didn't feel any problems till 1940. 1940 was the year when the Hungarians were the first ally in Hitler's war, and as a recompense to their work and their contribution to the war, they, with a signature, Hitler took Transylvania and gave it to the Hungarians. And with this, all the laws against the Jews came to Hungary and more. I was in the 6th grade, at the end of 6th grade, when the Hungarian army took over the little town where I lived. And from there on, only problems came. First terrible blow for us was no schools for Jewish children. From kindergarten to university, no schools. Now we were proud to say that we are the people of books. My parents were devastated. What will be with our 2 children? My family was small, my mother, my father, my brother and I. But my father had 11 siblings, and my mother had 4 boys, brothers. Two uncles of mine were in the United States, and 2 aunts. They went away before the army took them. But the rest, 39 members of my family, only my mom and I survived the Holocaust. Everybody died either by gas, the young and the old, and those who were malnutrition, contagious diseases, you name it. Anyway, 37 members of my family died. We didn't believe when we came home that this could happen. And we waited, and nobody else came back but the 2 of us. Some editor of my book said that really the uniqueness of my story is that we were together with my mom, and I don't think that we could survive if I was alone or she was alone. It's impossible. But somehow her faith, which I didn't have, but she did, her optimism, I don't know what shall I, you'll find out, those who read the book, we kept each other alive. So this was in 1940. My father heard about that famous mathematician who was famous in Europe also, and the Christian priest went to the government and begged for a school, that our children should not be on the streets, that we should have something to do. So they tried to get something for school things. Apropos, I will probably go for my last meeting in Romania in May, and we will have a big plaque on the little school building where it was given to us in 1940, September. So that school was in one place in Transylvania for all the 1,200 students from 13 years old The others were little elementary schools, but this was the junior high and the high school. In Christmas time, I went home from that town. I was living with an aunt in the town. And I went home and I told my father how I liked the school. He said, yeah, let me see what can I do for we pay. They were the ones who supported the school. There were no state money that was given. Whatever we could give, because they took away the business from us, the valuables, everything. But what my mother and my father could produce, that was our education for mine and for my brother. So I went home and said, what do you study? And I told him science and math and geography and history and languages. What kind of languages do you study? So I told him that Romanian, because Romania was Hungarian, now it's Hungarian, Hebrew, because it was a Jewish school, German was a sine qua non, it was a must. He stopped me. Latin was also obligatory, but that's not important. 5 languages. She said, so what's going on with English? I was 13 years old. I don't know. Well, you have to go back to your principal and tell him, I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters in the United States, and I want you to learn English. Picture, you're 13 years old, you go to the principal, and I said, my father wants me to learn English. English, we don't have English teachers here. We have 5 teachers, but not English teachers. I don't mind, I still want to learn English. So he said, what about the German teacher? She might know as a secondary language. Fine. He went, and she had a certification to teach English also. They were top teachers because they were kicked out from their schools and they came to work for peanuts in our school. We are always the worst paid. Where is the teacher? The teachers are the worst paid professionals, but they did it because they wanted to teach. So I was one who asked for English. In 1 hour, there were 30 other students who signed up. 3 times a week at 5 o'clock, we went back to school and studied English. So if my English is not good enough, I started when I was 13 years old. Of course, this beautiful school existed for 3.5 years, and they said, no more school, private school, public school, no more. Go home, we have other plans for you. The plans were to take us out from our home, to leave everything behind, and go somewhere, we didn't know where we can contribute to Hitler's war. We were not trusted to have fusil, how do you say in English, guns, or to defend or politically get involved in the war. But we could work in a farm, or we could work in a factory, which we did. They did not, we didn't know what will my grandmother do, or my 2-month-old cousin in the farm. But that was the plan. The next step, leave everything behind, get something to some food, like beans and potatoes or flour. You take something what you can wear, you take some blankets that will be necessary, although this was in May. But they prepared us not to take too much clothing. We don't know where we go. We went to the ghetto. You know what is a ghetto? Mm-hmm. Well, an isolated place where we didn't see anybody else but the guards and us. And in the brick factory, a brick factory that had 10,000 people. A room like this would be divided by 3 families. Blankets that we brought from home was the wall between the families. In our family were 16 that we slept on the floor. It's impossible sometimes to think that this is possible. But it was in June, May, at the end of May, so it wasn't cold. The problem was that we did not have toilets for 10,000 people in the brick factory. So they made a big meeting in the center of the brick house, of the factory, and they looked around, told, I don't see my savior here, but he was good too, to dig latrines, because otherwise there were bushes and nothing else. And they selected 6 boys who would start latrines. You know what is a latrine? It's 1 yard wide, 2 yards deep, sitting or standing, number 1 and number 2. My boyfriend, by that time, I was 17, he was 19, so I am allowed to have a boyfriend. He was chosen to dig the latrines. And he was alarmed. He was chosen, he said, I refuse to do this work, this is humiliating, this is against any anti-hygiene rule. No, I refuse to do it. So the guard looked at him and said, really? He took 2 men from the crowd to hang him to a tree, his toes barely reaching the ground. This is what we can do to anybody who refuses any kind of order given by the Hungarian or German. There were some German guards who supervised the Hungarians, and more. He didn't die. After 20 minutes he fainted. They cut him off, but he lost completely his desire to live. He was humiliated, tortured, terrible. He was never the same guy. I thought this is the end of the world. Just picture seeing your boyfriend hanging on a tree. I will tell you what happened to him. This was at the beginning of the ghetto. For 3-4 weeks we lived there. We didn't know what happens next. We saw a big cattle car on the railway where the brick were taken out or in. We didn't think that this is for people to transport. It was for us. The cattle car had 2 little windows, 70 people, young and old, in 1 wagon. They took us somewhere. Again, nobody knew where. My father could reach those 2 windows where the horses could put their head out, but he could see. We are not anymore in Hungary or in Transylvania. We are somewhere else. So the 3rd day we found out that we were in Auschwitz, which was Poland before, and now was a concentration and an extermination camp, because not all had the same goal to do. This had both. First they concentrated us, and then they killed who was not good enough to work. That night at 11 o'clock when we arrived was the selection. Maybe you have seen Schindler's List, anybody?
Yes.
You know, when I first saw that film, it was so real that I had a student who was an usher in that movie, and Mrs. Knopfler, come with me. I could hardly get to the bathroom. I was so excited and went back, I don't know how many years, 4 years, here in the United States. So anyway, this was the selection. Again, my luck. When Mengele, one of the Nazis, important Nazi, made the selection, pushed my mother to the right with the young people, 17 to 25 years old, who did not have children. Because even if they were young, but they had children, they would push to the left. And they went directly to the gas chambers, and we went to work. So my mother said, everybody is my age, over there, and why should I be here with you kids? And we just pulled on her, stay here. We have one mother out of 70. That's what saved her life. She stayed with me. That night, let me find somebody here. She had hair. She has hair, and I had hair like she had. And that's our crown, whether we believe it or not. Women, that's our crown. They shaved my hair, like my hand. And I cried. Of course I cried. The woman was singing and shaving my hair and I said, how can you sing when you take my hair away? She looked at me like I was crazy, slapped me. You snotty girl, what do you think? I do this day and night. I saw my father and my mother killed in our house in front of me. How could I keep my sanity if I don't sing or do something? But she saw that I was so lost and unhappy. She said, just get away from Auschwitz. Do whatever you want, but get away from there. This is terrible. She felt sorry for me. The truth is that we had to leave all the dress, what we wore, only our shoes we kept, and we went to a shower. Those who went to the left, those went directly to gas chambers. Old and young, men or women. We didn't know this. When we came home, we found out about gas chambers. And I saw them only when I went back 50 years later to Auschwitz to face my nightmares. So we were chosen to work. For 8 days, they looked at our hands, our strong legs. I don't know what they were looking for, but after 8 days, I am not even tattooed. And they chose us to go somewhere else. Again, we didn't know where. It was Riga, Lithuania's capital. Near Riga, there was a concentration camp for work, 10,000 around. And we worked there in a factory that recycled, the Germans know already recycling, recycled batteries, big batteries. We took apart the aluminum and the wires, and inside there is a mushy stuff that became gunpowder. Next day, another building, and we transported there the material, and they made the gunpowder. So our work was pretty important. In a room like this, 60 women, benches, there were prepared the batteries, and we worked at night, from 6 o'clock at night at next 6 o'clock, 12 hours. Now, I don't know, but we could not keep our eyes open. It was impossible to get used to work from 6 o'clock with the food that they gave us and keep our eyes open. There was one German foreman, old, he wasn't useful for the war, he supervised our work. He came to me one night and he said, you little girl, I was 17, you know, you speak German. You must sing German also. I said, I do, I speak. I have 2 German songs. My father was a musician, a frustrated musician, who taught us that Italian operas, I have to learn 2 in Italian. Romanian, whoever was the composer or the language, I had to learn it. And in German, I learned a love song and a lullaby. We didn't need a lullaby. So I started the Lehar, Dein ist mein ganzes Herz, my love. And I started to sing. Now, the girls around me, they knew the melody, and they started to sing along. Da, 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 da. In 1 week, the guy did not put his hand, he had like a baseball bat. Every night he beat us up. And then he came with the idea, I can save the work he needed to produce, and I can let them live. In 1 week, everybody sang along with me. and we never slept at night anymore. We produced one Nazi. That's why I say I can't blame everybody. I never talk about Germans. I talk about Nazis. And even among Nazis, there were human beings. If you go to see the book sleeve, I read the book, and people are alarmed because they show German people who were sympathetic with Jews. They were hiding one or two Jews if they had to. They fed somebody if they had to. Youngsters were against Hitler when they saw what Hitler's orders do. Not many, but those few we have to put on a pedestal and observe it and know it. I forgive. I cannot forget, but I forgive. So this guy saved our life. For 3 months we worked in this factory. I don't want to tell more. How do we live? Mom lost 30 pounds in 3 months. She simply couldn't eat that food that we were given. Those who read the book, they find out. I want to talk about when we have so many goodies here. And she couldn't eat that brand what they gave us, and the coffee that was cicoria. There was no, I could eat the stone also. I was always hungry. So anyway, we stayed for 3 months, and one mechanic who took care of our machines, he came to me and said, Clara, tomorrow there will be a selection. Did you hear the Russians are coming? Did you see it's like chandeliers were, how do you call that light? It looked like candles, and they saw all what we did, but they never bombed the camp, they bombed Riga. So he told me, get ready, there will be a selection, your mother doesn't look good, she had hair, he brought me a piece of red paper to put some rouge on her face and try to save her. I said, how can I save her? Don't be next to her, take another row and let her be alone, because you are very much alike. And they love to separate sisters and mother from. And so did I. Next day, really was a selection. The SS who came and looked at my mother, she was 44 years old, and all the others were younger. Stopped in front of her and said, how old are you? My mother said 39. She was 44. 39. You want to die? You are not 39, you are not 31. Look at her legs, she's strong. Why do you lie about it? You don't want to win the war? Hitler's war? When I heard this, I knew that my mom is safe. Go back to your row. Next. My mother was saved again. We were together. We were put in a ship, merchandise ship. We were taken to Danzig, if you ever heard about a beautiful harbor. Then another camp, Stutthof. You don't have to learn this. I want to forget them. Stutthof. But there something funny I have to tell them, because they are ladies here.
Would you like to take
if
a quick
somebody-
break for a drink, or are you okay?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
She's number 4 now, but she has a mother. She doesn't need me.
Absolutely.
Then we were there, a couple who had already lice. Now you know that I worked with powder, black powder. We were more than black, any black. There was no soap, there was no towel in Riga. And now we didn't have in the hair lice, but we had in the dress. In Auschwitz we got a gray dress. My number was here and in the back, but it was a gray dress. They took away because one of us had lice. And they gave me a green satin dress. Like open, flare, short. I looked like a hooker. But how do I know this? That train then transported us from Stutthof to a new place where we had the anti-tank trenches. There was a window, because the other trains, they didn't. This had a window, and I looked at myself. Hair like this, and open. I had nice gentleman here. And I went back to Mom, and I said, Mom, look at this. How do I look? Fine. I said, Mom, a prostitute has better dresses than this one. No, just picture. I had my shoes. My father was a shoemaker. I had my shoes, and I had stockings and panties. I looked like one. No, you will have today a party at 5 o'clock, and you will be the most beautiful. That was my mom's positive answer. And I could cry day and night. But that was my dress till the end of the war. After liberation, there were already some organizations that were free, and they got us some pants and even a sweater I had, I remember, but the green dress still, short, flare, satin, green. After this, we worked for 5 months, no, September, October, November, December, January, 5 months, yes, we worked in anti-tank trenches. Have you ever seen what is an anti-tank trench? No? 6 yard wide, 6 yard deep, but like a trapeze. We had to dig and throw the ground up. My mother was shoveling, and I was with not a shovel, axe. Take the dirt and throw it up. Group of 6 girls, my mother also. This is what we do for 5 months. From September 1st, I would say, till January 19th. I don't have to tell you, rain or shine, we have to go out because the Russian tanks were coming. From east, they want to reach Hitler's main Berlin and meet the Allies. They were, when we were in Auschwitz in 1940, the Allies were already north of, between England and France. And still, because we were the last batch of Hungarian Jews who could work for them. So we worked from 7 o'clock till 6 o'clock. Again, I want to stop here, tell you, not everybody was bad. One day when my mom was very sick, they couldn't even take her to a tent where people died, and they named that Revere, which is hospital. They didn't have any kind of medicine, but they stayed there. They didn't have to come out to dig. And when I went to the doctor, who was a dentist, I said, once, please, let my mom stay in for half a day. She can't go, it's raining, it's bad. I can take it. I have 1% I can take, and that's full. Goodbye. Of course, in German. So I took her out as she was sick, and I gave her a little massage with the coffee that we got in the morning. It wasn't coffee, it's cicoria. And she felt a little better, but she couldn't work. She couldn't really work. And I was always working in the anti-tank. She was outside, exposed. 16 years old, Hitler Jugends. I don't want to compare with our, how do you call the Boy Scout, God forbid. But that age came around, not the guards, came around, hit her everywhere where they reached her. You old bag, you don't work, how do we win the war like this? And I listened for a while in the bottom of the anti-tank trench. And then I couldn't stand it. I got up, confronted him, and I said, stop it. She's doing this from 7 o'clock till 7 o'clock at night with the food that you are giving to them. And I told him what kind of food. and you beat a woman, a human being. Don't you have a mother? He was flabbergasted. 16 years old boys. For a while, yes, I have a mother, but she's German. In other words, all who are not German drop dead. But he stopped. He was red, and he stopped beating her. Turned around and left. All the girls who worked with me, you are crazy, Clara. Now he will bring the guards. They wouldn't kill us because they needed our work, but they could punish us not to give us food or something. I didn't care. When I fed at night, and we slept like sardines in a tent, and I saw the bruises on her back, I would do it again, so that at least he stopped. He didn't beat her more. You know what happened next day? Around 12 o'clock, the sun was up. She came to us directly to me, had a big carrot in his hand and half of a cigarette. I don't see you really, this lady, okay. Half of a cigarette. And he said, smoke this, you will be less hungry. Eat this carrot. It has vitamins in it. That time, vitamins. The boy was changed. When I told him, don't you have a mother, probably realized that I'm a human being. He left and never came back. These little things gave us hope that we are not animals. We might find some human beings here. This was at the end in November. By December, we heard the cannons. The Russians were coming from east to west. They chased us, not us. They wanted to go ahead against Hitler. January 19th, you know the story, my birthday. We stand in the roll call for selection, who can walk away from the camp and who will stay there whatever happens to them. Mostly those who cannot walk, they will stay there. Later we heard that they got some injections and a couple of them died, but the rest died by themselves. From 1,000 women, probably 250 were able to walk and were selected that day, January 19th, my birthday. My mom stands behind me. We always try to be in another row, and has a little package in her hand, in some newspaper that people left in the ground. And happy birthday, Clara. You are 18. I made a birthday cake for you, layer cake. I opened, there were 3 slices of bread with a little margarine in between, and it was that high, and she made a layer cake. I asked, Mom, where did you get 3 slices of bread? 1 slice we got every morning. If we ate it, we were hungry till night when we get some soup. She didn't eat for 3 days to save and make a layer cake. First she tried to say, you didn't eat one night your portion. I didn't eat. I could eat the stone or so. She didn't eat for 3 days. You know, what is hunger? I don't want to talk about it, but I definitely sympathize with those people who, New Year's Eve, how many homeless people were fed? I'm so happy to see that, because hunger is terrible, absolutely terrible. I will never leave on my plate anything. Don't think that I won't eat that. No, I don't take more. I take as much as I can eat, even in the university village. So that was my birthday. 2 days we walked, day and night, till we found a farm, a stable with a couple of animals, a cow, I saw cow, little pigs, not too much. A farm, not as pretty as yours. And those who spoke the language, we went with the guards to find out in the farmhouse some kind of food for them. And we overheard their meeting. What do we do with these people in the stable? Because the stable had about 200 people. Well, one person said, one of the guards, why don't we burn them? There is enough straw in the stable, and let's take off. An old guy, we used to call him Papa, because he was kind with us sometimes. In the book you have details. So he said, no way, the whole region would stink of human flesh. Then the Russians really will find out what kind of people are we, and what did we do to people. Another guy said, let's shoot them. Papa said again, no way, if I have my bullets, I protect myself, not them. Whether it's true, whether he meant it, but next day they were left without doing anything to us, in the middle of nowhere, in East Prussia. At 4 o'clock somebody went out to number 1, came back, we don't have guards. They left. We were free. We walked home for 3 months from East Prussia till Transylvania. We didn't have a map, we didn't have a compass, we stopped sometimes a truck, but the Russians raped. My mother saved me from that, just talking. Did you read the book? I can't get over. Everybody said there are 2 trucks at the gasoline station. One was full in the back with people, and the other was empty in the front. And there was 1 seat. And the guy looked at me, I was frozen. It was January 25 or something like this. We didn't have it. And said, come with me. And I was ready. You know, we had a blanket, that was our blanket, and our coat. I was frozen. So I said, no, I want my mother. No, there is one seat there next to the chauffeur. I said, go, Mama said, go. No, we were never separated. And I went. After about 10 miles, and my mother went with the other truck. After 10 miles, when we reached the forest, he started to unfold my blanket and put his hand on my thigh, and I started to cry like a baby. Mama, Mama, where are you? I didn't know Russian that time. Later I had to learn Russian also. But the word Mama, he looked at me, 17 years old, 18 years old. Put me back, put the dress back, continued. But it took about 10 minutes. This all happened. He stopped the car, he tried. He realized that I'm too young or too dirty or too bold, I don't know. But the word of Mama saved me. That's all I could say. We went on. Poor Mom was with the other people who went to the truck. They yelled at her, yes, you spoiled her all the time and you let her go. This never happened before. And they left her alone in a station waiting for about 20 minutes because we came, but we had a little stop. And they left her alone because she spoiled me. Why did she let me go with a Russian soldier? We didn't know that they raped. We had later on in Treblinka, another place where we do rape. My mom saved me too, there too. She sat in my lap, and when she was attacked, I was almost suffocating, but she didn't. She kept showing the guy that she is bored and sick. We didn't speak Russian. An Ukrainian woman came, who also waited for the train, came and She said, leave those people alone. Don't you see they have lice? They are sick. Pulled him off, my mother, took him out from that little station where we were. What happened outside, I don't know, but we heard crying and shooting. But my mom saved again my life. So we arrived in Romania. This time was back Romania. And that was April, at the end of April. Still, I don't know dates. We arrived to the empty house. My Christian friends, there were no Jews in the town. We were the only 5 women who happened to be together all the time from Auschwitz on. We came home and we found the house empty. My Christian friends, classmates, began to say, Clara, you have to finish your sophomore year and junior year, because in September it's our senior year. They didn't have books, but they had their notes from their sophomore year. They gave it to me, I studied them. After 2 months, I finished my sophomore year. In July and August, my junior year from that notes. And in September, I went back to school, this time a public school, where were 15 from all Transylvania, 15 Jewish girls and 15 Christian girls. I have the picture, and that's where I have baccalaureate. The rest was easier because I had 4 years of college without any money. In Russian education, there is no college. Don't move there. But you don't have to pay for education if you are good students. Or if you come from a proletarian family, then you even have tutors and all that. That's my respect for that. Then I found my husband. He had nobody, but he was born in the same town, but I didn't know him, only after the war. And he was in pharmaceutical chemist college. We both finished. He had a nice boy, just one. I should have had more. And he and my mother, finally, we came to the United States only in 1962. So I stayed 17 years in a communist country. That wasn't it wasn't a picnic, let's put it this way. But they wouldn't let us go because they gave us education. They needed teachers, they needed workers, and they didn't give us a visa. And Egypt complained that if we go too many people, we signed up to Israel. Israel will be too strong. So they stopped the immigration to Israel. My mother had relatives in France, and we asked for visa there. And in France, then we decided to come to United States. Shall I finish with God Bless America? Because that's my first home. My first home where I feel at home. So if I don't criticize everything, what you can, I can't, it's because it gave me so much. Yes, America gave me. In no time, I came in United States in 62 June, at the end of June. And it's in August, I worked in a publishing house where I had to translate different letters. What is the name? Oh, I've forgotten. The book. Anyway, it was a translation, only letters, letterheads, Russian, German, French. And in September, I went to teach to Brooklyn, Colby Academy. Yesterday, I found somebody who, Dan's son friend, has an office in Handsome Place where I was a teacher for 2 years because I was not a citizen. I couldn't teach in public school. After 2 years, I could. And after that, I taught in Westchester for 4 years, Scarsdale and Eastchester. So here I am, taking you away from tomorrow you work, and I don't. I'm retired. Yeah, my son came, he was 7 years old, and he went out the street and he said hi to the boys, and he came back. Mom, you were an English teacher. Nobody says good morning here, they say hi. Then he came back next day with a nicer word, 4-letter words. And he said, what is that, Mom? I said, you'll find out later. I'm an English teacher. But when I went to the private school, I taught French and Latin. The principal of that private school was 82 years old, and she wanted to be free of teaching it. And in Christmas time, 15 students I had in my French class and about 7 in Latin class. And one of them came to me and said, Mrs. Knopfler, are you going to flunk me this semester? Are you going to flunk? The next to him said, he means, are you going to fail him? Are you going to fail? I didn't know what it is. Are you going to flunk him? Next question, do you know 4-letter words? I said, yeah, I do. Love. No, not this kind of word. And he told me what kind. So then they said that I struggled with the slang. They said, you know what, read Catcher in the Rye. And I did. I learned all the words. I like that you laugh. So, was it worthwhile to stay so long? You promise that you'll talk to your children?
Yes.
They are our future. And you know what? I think that only education can change this. If I kill another Hitler, what's the use of it? They went to Yugoslavia, they repeated. In Egypt, they are killing Christians. In Darfur, they are killing each other. Only education helps. If you can teach your children or you find teachers. And now I told Betty that I have somebody who's teaching my book in China. Judy, did I tell you that? It happened that the niece of one of the teachers where I spoke teaches in China, in American school. There is American school. And Alice Svetlan has her family there. This is the director of the organization of all the schools. And she goes there and sees my book. This is what she was teaching. Okay, so are you proud of me?
Absolutely. So you wrote your book in English. You wrote it in English. But is it being translated into those languages, into Hungarian?
No, they teach it in English. Or in Hungarian? No. I wrote my book 50 years later. I went back to Auschwitz as a tourist.
I remember you said it in the book, yeah.
Yeah, to face my nightmares.
I couldn't believe those other tourists that you were with. I couldn't believe how they were.
They didn't want to wait to come to Auschwitz.
Right.
They said, we want to have a nice breakfast. Yeah, and you know who helped? The Christian chauffeur. He said, okay, I arrange something. So next day we went to the bus, and again the women, where will we eat breakfast? She had a big box full of coffee and whatever. Here, we will eat here. And it was Corpus Christi that day. It's a very religious Catholic day. I couldn't even go to all the archives, but we went in Auschwitz and we spent the day there. And that gave me a so-called motivation to write my book, and my mom.
That's an amazing picture of your mother in the book, that photograph. I've never seen anyone with a smile like she had.
Yeah.
At age 100.
101. She was 101. My grandson said, if Grandma would live 2 more months. She would live in 3 centuries. Because she was born in 1892,
Oh,
and no, 1898. And she died in 1999,
oh,
November.
oh.
So she would live till,
Yes, she would have been so amazing.
he figured it out. She had less wrinkles at 100 than I have now. No, it's,
I mean, I've got the book here. Do you want to show the photograph of her? I mean, it's just so beautiful.
I brought 8 books here.
Oh, you did? Okay.
8 books. This young lady, Betty, already took 2, and Shelby took 1. So
Yeah.
we know now who took
Yes.
it, and I didn't sign it.
Oh,
Only
okay, so
the
if you
3
want her
books.
to sign it, do
Yeah.
come back. Do
Oh,
come back.
Whoever wants to buy. And another thing, I wanted to offer when it was published to my professor, who was a rabbi also, and I sent him a copy. And I said, he said, "How much is it, Clara?" I said, "I don't want to take money from you." You don't know anything. If they don't pay for it, they don't read it. Since then, I don't give away my books. No, I lend books, but they have to give back to me if they want to read it.
Any other questions as we were kind
Please,
of wrapping up?
Oh, incredible story. Incredible that you found a space to share that people were good with this. That you brought that out because it's so easy
I must.
not
I have
to know that. So I'm touched and I would thank you for that.
Well, you read the book.
Yes.
This German papa, there was one woman who was pregnant in the camp when we were digging the antidetectors. Probably when she was pregnant, 2 months or 3 months, so it didn't show. But before the 7th month or 8th month, it showed even though, because she was skinny, and tried to hide it. Finally, she gave birth. This SS old guy went to the forest, made a cradle for the baby, and asked me, we were that 1 month or 2 months inside because we did some work with shoes. And he told us, take the baby, we'll hide it in the cradle, and the mother will be saved, probably. The baby died. We had to bury the baby and the cradle with him, and the mother survived. Because the guy took it. If they had known, anybody, that she's pregnant, she would have died a long time ago. Yeah. This is why I emphasize that there were non-Jews, Nazis, who had a heart. And my mother, who had faith. Anybody Jewish here? Yom Kippur, she was fasting in the anti-tank trench. Fasting. And I told her, Mom, you fast every day here. 24 hours. I rebelled. I was 17 years old. Where is your God? She would say, don't talk about God. Evil people, we have to change them. It's not God's doing. That was my mom. She believed in God when nobody believed. When we were finally liberated, the girls were so hungry. They took straw and wood and those little pigs, cut it up, and made a barbecue, not like yours. 3, whatever. And I was going to eat. Don't touch that. I was hungry. No, that's not kosher. This is my mother. You know what? Next day, everybody was sick. There was no bread, there was no potato, and they ate that almost raw. And they had diarrhea and all that. I didn't have to. I couldn't. Yeah, but I can't tell the story always to the kids because I went back to God. So
The most extraordinary part of your book I did not anticipate, and that was the relationship with your mom.
yeah, it was rare, rare. This is one of the editors of the book. His name is Martin Gilbert, Fawn.
Oh, yeah.
The Queen
Yeah.
made him knighted him.
Yeah, I know it. I know
And he
his
said that
sister.
our story is unique.
Yes.
It
And
was
and
unique.
he's an extraordinary.
She was so happy to take my only dress, go to the river, wash it while I was waiting in the tent. And she was a mother where mother has no role. But she washed my dress in the river. But you know, she lived in my house till she died. She didn't go to old age home. All during my marriage. And my husband died in an accident. And she was, again, who said, life goes on. You have 2 grandchildren, and you have to live. I didn't want to live. He was 68 years old. In his own plant, a machine fell on him. Yeah. And my son was on his own. He had a good law office, and we could travel, and we did.
Where does he live now? With Rachel and Robert, those are your grandchildren.
Yeah.
Where do they live?
Rachel is in Santa Monica.
Oh,
She's
really?
writing in a fashion magazine. I don't know what she's
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
Robert went back to school because he wanted to have his master's degree.
Yeah, yeah.
He just sent a picture.
So that's the stage they are at now.
Yes. You know what Mom said to that German television lady? Oh, that's fun. Are they going to sleep tonight?
You're okay, yes? Excellent. I think they seem like they're still interested, so would carry on.
When Mom was 100 years old, in the New York Times, there's a big article
Really?
about her, and yeah, it's in the book. And he, the German TV Odyssey is the name of the TV station, came to Mom to have a picture of her, and the other stations came too, but this was interesting. So the lady, it was a woman with 2 operators, and said, Peppy, tell me, how come you went through so many things and you're still alive? And she was, her memory, no problem. She said, you know what, I wanted to prove Hitler that he was all wrong. He could not annihilate my people. This is all in Hungarian, and I have to translate it. They could not. Nobody can. I have only 1 child left. She has only 1 son, but he has 2 children, my great-grandchildren, and they are here to stay another 5,000 years. She wanted to prove Hitler that he was wrong. I told her, Mom, this goes all over Europe. I don't know. I don't mind. Let them know it. Lovely sense of humor. It's not prejudice. It's really, she was a something.
How long ago did she pass away?
In 99, well, I would say 10,
14.
figure it out, 99.
14.
14 years ago. 14 years ago. It's still with me every day. And if you come to my house, her picture is all over. Dominates my bedroom also. Now, when she was 100 years old, there were lots of pictures. From California came a journalist who made 10 2,000 years, in 2,000 years, 100 years of. And we had a very nice meeting a year ago in April. The Holocaust Museum in Washington made an anniversary, and we were about 3,000 people, not survivors only, from all over the world. That's when I got this Never Again, and Clinton's daughter Elie Wiesel and his granddaughter spoke, and many others. And what we emphasize, that this generation, not my son's generation, because he kept saying, Mom, don't talk about it, you'll never forget it. I said, George, I will never forget anyway. At least I leave a testimony to others to never happen again. So this was the 20 years of anniversary. They built tent in front of the museum. We all found our testimony of, and about
Holocaust Museum you're referring
it
to?
was for better.
The museum in New York you're referring to?
No, it was
I mean
in,
DC, that's what I'm saying.
in Washington. In Washington. In New York, we have a new one.
Oh, maybe that's the one I went to.
The Battery. The Battery. First was in the 92nd Street, and this is down at the Battery.
Battery Park.
Yeah. That's a new one.
In the book, you talked about your father, and he gave you this tidbit of advice,
Yeah.
which I think is always
Yeah,
very
it
poignant
was
as
on
well.
my 16th birthday when we didn't know what will happen. She said, don't try to get married before you have a diploma in your hand. That's what nobody should marry you because they are pretty or you are rich or you can't stand without them if you don't want to. And I didn't. My husband waited for 3 years.
And he also said what is in here.
Yeah, he said, continuing that, whatever is in your head, nobody can take it away, because they took everything away. But we have now, I have $210 every month for the ghetto. There is restitution. Germans were the first who admitted there. Do you know that there are demonstrations in Germany, grandchildren who ask forgiveness for their grandfather's deeds, and they go to Auschwitz. German,
They're
Christian.
required to go to Auschwitz.
What?
That's part of their curriculum. They are required to, whereas in the United States, it's hardly taught in schools.
Yeah.
Right.
Only in big cities. Chicago, I saw very nice.
The Holocaust Museum now has a project to try to get it taught all over the country.
It in New York State was national. And you know what? I have to brag with this. Jackie Irving was a mayor 3 years ago. And by Hegel, I got to know her. And she had 3 proclamations on my wall that from now on, every year we will have a Remembrance Day of Holocaust. The first was in the town hall, where I went a short speech for 5 minutes, but I went to a church. The name of the church is Maximilian, Saint Maximilian. He was in Auschwitz with the Jews. You know that?
I know that church.
I thought you were there because everybody was there. About 500. And Jackie made a big, I shouldn't say propaganda, but I had a lot of people, and there was the Christian priest, the Jewish rabbi, and the director of Islam studies. And we've all agreed that we want to change. We will remember the bed. And so I go every year to the, she's not a mayor now, because they are 6 months.
Right.
Yeah, but she was excellent.
Yeah.
Luckily, they don't have to go to school. Did you hear over there something? And my accent also? When they tell me that it sounds like Jaja Gabor, I'm sorry. I don't like her.
You're definitely more
She
sophisticated.
gave back the ring, but not the diamond. So I don't sound like Jaja Gabor.
Betty, you had a question?
I just have a question. question. Do you ever have a bad day?
If I had a bad day.
Do you ever have a bad day?
When my husband died at 68, I was completely out from this world. Why me? Those were not one, but many, many bad days. Until the principal, where I was teaching for 20 years already, sent the secretary to me. We need you, Clara. Wake up. You have to teach. The French teacher is pregnant and has to go in birth vacation. I went back. I had to get up. I had shoes on me and be presentable. That saved my life. But this started in October, and my husband died in June. In those 3 days, only my mom could handle me. Then she kept saying, she was 92 when I left my husband. And that was her son. He didn't have anybody. So it was double tragedy. Yes, I had a bad day. But I am optimistic because there are things that are around, and let's hope that will be a better life. You have young children, and they need to be free, they need to be happy. I know this wizard is going to make so the microphone is good. You hear? You heard what I said.
Yes, everything's fine.
I have his business card.
So if there are no more questions, at some point we would like to get a group picture. I don't know how we will finagle that, but I think we will do our best. And I think we
They are
have
not
our computer wizard
I
and
told you, I am retired, but everybody else is working.
So, but any other questions before we
I have one
close?
little question.
Yes, please.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
I want to ask Clara about fortitude.
About?
Fortitude. There are circumstances in all our lives, I'm sure, where when someone passes away, like your husband, or sometimes we come home and we think we've had such a terrible day. And I'm trying to take what you've lived, your experience into my life, and I think what fortitude it takes to live your life and to have experienced all those things you've experienced that when I take it to my life, sometimes I think, wow, that wasn't such a bad day. Could you speak about fortitude in terms of what does it take to get up every morning when you're told to get up because you have to get up, because if you don't, you die? What does it take every morning to have seeing people you love?
Motivation to live.
Yeah, that strength, that inner, that core between your mom and you, but there is something that exists inside you that's apart from your mom.
L
That had she not been there,
L-O-V-E. The only thing that helps. If you have somebody for whom you feel like living again, it doesn't have to be a husband or a boy or a girl. It depends on where. Mother, sister, love is the first motivation. And optimism that it could be better. Look for something that keeps you going. That is worthwhile to live. I call it optimism, but not force optimism. Just to create something is not enough. Tangible. Somebody who cares for me, somebody whom I care for, the life of somebody, a friend's life is important because she would miss me a lot. That's all L-O-V-E. And the only thing. Maybe it's too naive, maybe it's too apolitical, maybe, but this is what I think. You know, I collected about 2,500 letters since I started to speak, from students, teachers, and I will publish it what means to a child to hear my story, who is only 8th grader, or what means for, I spoke in, what is, Jennifer is, Moore Park College. Last month, and this month in the Little University. And those people are older, you know, they work and they have colleges at night. They learned something from what I told them. There is a goal that we want to reach with our love. That's my fortitude. Nothing else can. You have work, find another one, you lose the work, but somebody who can count in your life, that's your motivation, I think. They find others. The kids tell me, from now on I am not going to criticize my mom's food because, yeah. If I will be a president, if I ever want to be a president, I won't allow this to happen. That's enough for me, from an 8th grader. I don't like to speak earlier, especially from the horrible things, but they can learn, and what education means.
I've heard it said that if Anne Frank she died of dysentery or whatever, if she had known that her father was still alive,
Yeah.
she might have had the will to continue living, but her sister had died, her mother had died, and she didn't know her father was alive.
And do you know, I was still waiting for my father, month and month. Why didn't he come back, my brother? But then slowly people came back from Auschwitz. Men, not women. Men came and told me the story, what happened. But I still went to see movies, maybe I find somewhere my father. That kept you going. And in my case, I felt responsible for my mom. She tried to work something. I took care of her. All my marriage was she lived with me. And when my husband died, definitely, she was with me. The last day, I took her to the hospital. When she said, no more. When a child has to put her mother in a diaper, that's the end of it. She said Wednesday, and Friday she died. I had a nice commode for her, things like that. So I had to have a diaper. I can have 10 children and have them diaper, but when a daughter has to put her mother in diaper, she has to go. Don't push me. You pushed me a lot. Now it's the end. If I had her mind, I would be happy.
So I never asked you this, but I was thinking while you were speaking, how was the transition to go from the situation that you were in to go into back to normalcy in life? And you saw everyone who, there was this, even to now in this day and age, the indulgence that we have, and the people that don't appreciate, you know, the food or just the basic needs that, you know, you struggled with that we hear.
This is a very, very legitimate question. But I have to tell you that anything that happened after was better than anything what it was before. And the proof of the friends that I found, the fact that my mom was with me and nobody else had a mother, that gives you, she couldn't give back my faith for a long time. But when my son was in trouble, then I talked to God. She couldn't, because we went through where there was no God. But after that, I came on my own. I needed somebody to help me. You know, when my son was sick for a while. I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, but it's a legitimate question. And her question also, what gives you the fortitude, the energy to go on? And also, the friends help a lot. The friends help a big input in my career. Here also. And I like people per se. I'm not very, very critical. When somebody's very dumb, I don't have patience. That's the only thing. But I'm not so critical anymore.
Well, and each of you should have a little bio to take with you of Clara and her likes and dislikes.
What did you get it?
Well, you did tell me. I
I'm
didn't
not
make it
Clara.
up. They're going to think that I made it.
I'm looking at the
Oh,
picture.
that one I took you online. That wasn't the one I took of you. I took a lovely picture of her in front of the trellis with the grass, and that's on the website, so you can see that. But just like I said,
In
if
your
you,
website.
on the
right?
website for Living Legacies, yes.
Yeah, but I would like to have one. You said that you'll make a picture for China. You know. You
Oh,
said
we'll talk about that. I'll
Okay.
show. I'll explain. So you can take that with you, and then also a little bookmark as a takeaway. Clearly, you know, she loves literature and book, but her quote: "Forgive, but never forget." So thank you very much.